Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne. And today I'm going to be taking adorable Disney characters and making them absolutely terrifying, pretty much as far as we can go without getting a cease and desist from the mouse. So first things first, I wanted to start with Luca because it's the brand new Disney Pixar movie. I saw it recently and I thought this would be a perfect candidate because a huge part of the plot is about Luca being a sea monster. So I thought, let's put the monster into that sea monster. Because just looking at Luca's actual design, you can see that they wanted him to look cute. They wanted people to want to like this character, especially because the story is kind of about acceptance and it would not be good for their child audience to reject this main character because he was actually too scary. So I immediately started looking up some deep sea creatures for inspiration. A lot of undiscovered species still exist probably in the deepest parts of the ocean. That's almost guaranteed. So I thought maybe the reason that the humans haven't seen these sea monsters is because they live very, very deep. I won't spoil it, but there was some experimentation with this idea even in the movie. So I kind of intentionally leaned away from going that direction too much so there wasn't any kind of overlap. I thought the direction they went with his design in the actual movie was interesting. It was definitely just a aquafied sort of human design with sort of a mermaid kind of tail. And when I think about sea monsters, I specifically think about the Loch Ness Monster and the TV show River Monsters, where they show a bunch of giant fish that this guy catches, and of course the Kraken. So I couldn't help but throw in these tentacles. I know it makes him look a lot more like Frankenstein-like, like there's, you know, different pieces of different aquatic creatures together, and at first I didn't like it, but then I sort of started to vibe with it just because it really, I think, emphasizes the monster aspect. Like, this is not just an aquatic creature, this is some kind of Lovecraftian nightmare. And then I tried to take some of the colors pretty directly, especially that main teal color. I also decided to add like some damage from potentially like a shark bite. I was gonna have a whole piece of him missing, but I thought that was maybe a bit too far. I really emphasize the gills because I think gills are kind of creepy by default. They just like the fact that they just kind of open up into the throat of fish is like kind of disturbing to me. And I was really torn about whether or not I should do the long, jagged sort of football fish style of teeth or if I should do shark teeth, but I ended up going with the shark. And I also had him sort of dripping water out of his mouth because truthfully, when he transforms, he should have to cough up a bunch of water because he's transforming from gills to lungs. And then I just sort of gave him a gelato and he was all done. Next up, I wanted to do Miguel from Coco. Not only was this one of the more recent Disney Pixar movies, but also I felt like it would work really well just because death is a big part of the movie. Now, the Day of the Dead is not a particularly sad or scary holiday, but skull motifs are really associated with death and scary things, so I thought I could make it work. In this version that I've created in my head, Miguel has basically snapped because his precious like guitar that's the only thing he loved was smashed in front of him, and now the guitar string that was flung from his shattered guitar is now his weapon of choice. I don't know if guitar string would work as well as piano wire, but I definitely wanted to get that scary sort of hitman serial killer kind of vibe. And I definitely wanted him to have an expression that almost kind of speaks to like a Damien sort of vibe, just because, you know, he's a young kid, so you've really got to work to make him look properly scary. And I really like his like red hoodie for a scary design. I mean, red is a color that embodies a lot of different emotions, but in a scary context, obviously it works really well because, you know, blood and everything. And having the hoodie up automatically makes someone seem more mysterious in a way that can definitely be scary. This combination of the skull painted on the face as well as the hoodie being up kind of reminds me of like Legion from Dead by Daylight or the babyface killer from Happy Death Day. It's just giving me very much like a slasher vibe, and I know he's kind of too young to fall into that role, but I definitely can see it, and I think it's the right direction to go for him rather than making him like a proper monster. I honestly really liked a lot of things about Coco, but if you really want to look for an animation about the Day of the Dead, I highly recommend Book of Life. It was produced by Guillermo del Toro and both written and directed by a Mexican animator Jorge Gutierrez. And I feel like it is such a underrated movie. Like, so few people have seen it, and practically everyone has seen Coco. So since Book of Life came out first, honestly, it made me kind of resent Coco when it first came out, because I felt like they were getting like ripped off. But they are very different stories. But anyway, if you liked Coco and you're interested in the Day of the Dead, you should definitely check out Book of Life. It is such a cool movie, and it has a scene in it that literally brings me to tears every single time. So yeah, anyway, I digress. My Miguel serial killer, I think, is looking absolutely unhinged, and I kind of love how he came out. I do wish you could see the paint drips down his neck a little easier though. The next design is Beast from Beauty and the Beast, and I know what you're saying, that's not a modern Disney movie, but I have to give myself credit because the live action Beauty and the Beast is pretty modern, and it actually brought back to the sort of the table for discussion Beast design. It was kind of a big talking point when that live action came out, and I think that Beast design is a very complicated thing because they basically have to create this like lion gentleman creature that's supposed to be very scary and intimidating, but also believably someone that Belle could fall in love with. And because this is a movie sort of centered around this monster character, I really wanted to lean in and make him a little more monstrous. I think they did a decent job in the original of walking that line. I actually think they pushed it more than a lot of movies would. Like, he does not look like a person. He really does look like a animal-faced kind of creature. But I think we could go a little bit further with it, and I think the direction I ended up going was more of a body horror, sort of putting yourself in Beast's shoes, because truthfully that is the horror in Beauty and the Beast. It's not her really having to see him, because pretty soon, depending on who you ask, she either gets Stockholm Syndrome, or alternatively he just turns out to be a much nicer kind of character, and he seems very human, so their whole like monster human relationship doesn't seem so off. It's mostly just surface level. He's a person under a curse. So the real horror of the story is that this young person makes a mistake and then is forcibly transformed into a different kind of creature. So I didn't want to just go with the standard lion head over top a fancy outfit. I wanted to really lean into the like morphing and the almost sort of like cancerous encroachment of monster parts on this person. So I have not only the teeth sort of bursting out from the lips, but even above, the way that some animals, when their tusks grow too long, they kind of shoot through the cheeks and stuff. I wanted to really get that in there. It makes it look scarier, less natural. And I wanted to add more like sort of just like crazy splitting of the horns. Just kind of like there's unimpeded growth. Things are happening that aren't supposed to happen. This isn't an animal that evolved naturally. This is a blight upon a person. I wanted to give off that kind of impression, and I think that kind of monster approach with Beast would be really interesting, because I think Beauty and the Beast is typically very centered on how Belle feels, and I think that it's kind of a more interesting story to find out how the Beast came to be this way, because I mean, talk about a traumatic sort of climax of a story for him to be transformed like this, but instead it's all relegated to before the story even starts. I hope you guys enjoyed my scary renditions of these cute Disney characters. Let me know if there's any other characters you'd like me to do this with, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons, including Herbie Envy, Treku, Rodrigo, Neurocherry, Kali Halsey, Kubo, Moo Milk, Alana the Artist, Rylan Parker, Rylan Kaderia, Something Super, Deadly Nightshade Art, Maria Vasquez, Astral Fox Art, Middle Z, Lily Allure, The Expressive Poker Face, Morrissey Axolotl, Chris Straws, Kai Kieser, Tsubaki, Liliama Hammondtree, Nya Lavali, Angel File, Cutie Pie, Rune Raincrow, Rainwater Pearls, Ice Cream Pal, Lion, Nora Cornelson, Cola, Your Boy ST, JJ Jade, and of course, Lib 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 Lib.